In 2024, we posted 8 videos in our Flight Numbers Don't Matter series. And throughout those videos, we got hands-on experience in the studio and on the course with over 160 different discs. But which flight numbers really mattered to us? Hey everyone, it's Greg from Six Sided Discs, and we're recapping our top 6 discs, comparisons, and moments from each of our 4 series. But if you haven't seen some of our videos, this is your warning, because there are spoilers galore coming up later in the video. So check the links in the video description to watch the full comparisons, analysis, and more from each of these videos. Let's kick things off for our Flight Numbers Don't Matter series at number 6. How understable is too understable? Back in January of this year, I threw 20 different high-speed understable distance drivers, because the ones I was bagging at the time just weren't reliably understable. And while there were some really understable discs in that comparison, like this Divergent Discs Basilisk, or the Prodigy D6, those were in fact too understable for what I was looking for. I found a sweet spot though with the Lone Star Harrier, or so I thought. And while I bagged the Harrier for about 6 months this season, I found myself throwing it less and less, because it started to do exactly what the Discmania Astronaut and Mint Freetail were doing for me, not turning consistently. Now that may have been an Archer problem rather than an Aero problem, but either way, when I went to Arizona on vacation with my family, I shot an Innova-only round at Vista del Camino and brought along a Halo Mamba because I wanted to find my next understable distance driver. And boy, did I. In fact, I bagged this exact Halo Mamba for a while before we got these custom stamps in. So if you've been on the hunt for a reliably understable distance driver, try a Halo Mamba from our website. The link is in the video description. From extreme understability to moderate overstability, the very next video in the series was a comparison of 27 overstable mid-ranges from dozens of different manufacturers. And once again, this was a more personal comparison. Both of these videos came both out of necessity for me to fill a slot in my own bag, but also because it's a crucial slot in all players' bags. In the overstable mid-range world, it felt like there was a lot more variety in disc design and shape than there was with understable distance drivers. For example, the Legacy Badger is a completely different shape to the 2 Doomsday mid-ranges that I tested, the Scope and Desolation. And then even 2 mid-ranges from the same company, the Buzz OS and Malta from Discraft, were also completely different. Ultimately, I settled on the Prodigy Archive. I really liked how it fit in my hand, but in the months since, it hasn't been as overstable as I hoped, and I found myself throwing it less and less and less. And if you saw our recent video on Thought Space discs, you'll know that the Crux is now occupying that space in my bag. But I've also tested a couple other discs like the Castoplast Nord and the Axiom Fission Pyro. I guess we'll see which one sticks. So we've gone to the right, and we've gone to the left, but let's try to stay a little straighter here at number 4 with our Fairway Driver test of Undertakers. This video was all about accuracy and shot placement, exactly what fairway drivers are for. And for all the different slots we've tested in our Flight Numbers Don't Matter series, this one had the most discs that flew the same. This Z Undertaker set the tone for accurate shot placement, and almost everything followed suit. Until we got to the Dynamic Discs Escape. In Supreme Plastic, it was wildly understable and got huge distance. 2 things we weren't really looking for in that video. While most of our Flight Numbers Don't Matter videos are about comparing discs with similar flight numbers to see how different they can be from one manufacturer to the next, this next video was not about comparing flight numbers. Instead, it was a simple test. How far can Caleb throw mid-ranges? And which one will go the farthest? 34 different mid-ranges made this the most discs we've ever tested in one video, and put Caleb to work because he had to throw each one as far as he possibly could 3 times. Now, some of the discs that we tested never really had a chance, like the Innova DX Condor, or a few of the slower mid-ranges like the Castoplast Jota. But the top 5 distances had some surprises, including the XCOM Discs Gemini at 418 feet, which was one of the most consistent discs we tested. The Discraft Buzz SS MVP Detour, and Latitude 64 Pearl and Claymore rounded out the top 7. And with the Discmania Origin finishing in first place at 433 feet, an interesting trend appeared. The mid-ranges that flew the farthest were either designed to be straight or understable, achieving a lot more glide and a lot more distance. How far can you throw a mid-range? Leave a comment down below. Coming in at number 2 is a comparison not unlike where we started this countdown, all about understability. But this time we swap high-speed distance drivers for very understable mid-ranges. 19 different flippy mids were put to the test and charted on a fancy graph to illustrate just how much variation there can be from discs with similar flight numbers, or how inconsistent those numbers are from one manufacturer to the next. For example, these 2 discs have the same flight numbers, while all of these have -2 turn and 1 fade. This disc has -1 turn and 0 fade, while this one has -4 turn, yet was more overstable. But we already know, and as we have shown many times in this series, flight numbers can only take you so far. So what we really learned in this video is that depending on how far you want that very understable mid-range to go, you've got a few choices. From the understable but very far flying MVP Detour, to the Axiom Paradox, Innova Rollo, and finally Lone Star Lone Wolf, which was by far the most understable disc we tested. But my favorite big comparison we did in 2024 was a tough one, the Innova Wraith, or discs rated around 11.5 -1.3. Discs with the same flight numbers as the Wraith have been steadily growing in popularity in recent years, especially amongst amateur players who sometimes see that higher speed destroyer type number and are a little intimidated and want something slower. Recent bestsellers like the Wraith, the Latitude 64 Grace, and the Discraft Drive were all included in this test. But what stood out most in this comparison were some of the lesser-known brands. For example, the Viking Ragnarok was super understable for a disc with Wraith numbers, but that makes it a great option for beginners to throw in this slot. Another standout performance came from the Lone Star Curl, rated at 11.5 -1.2, and it was just smooth, easy distance for the average player. Lots to like there. This whole idea of flight numbers don't matter came mostly out of my frustration for how people shopped for discs. Blindly making decisions because a disc has the same numbers as another disc so often leads to a poor experience once you actually get out on the course. And hopefully some of you have found it helpful to have these comparisons so you can actually see how some of these discs compare. What do you want to see in 2025 from Flight Numbers Don't Matter? Leave a comment down below. Making these videos as part of my full-time job is a dream come true, and it would not be possible without all of you watching. So thank you so much for your support. For Six Sided Discs, I'm Greg. Thank you for 2024. We'll see you in 2025. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, or supporting us on Patreon. Your support makes this content possible.